Hey, Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel. And today we're talking about how do you freaking fund your injection molding costs, which are really big typically when it comes to a new product. And also I can go a little bit into like what are some of the other ways, the alternative ways, and what even is injection molding, right? Okay, so let's get down to it, right? So injection molding is probably one of the most common ways of mass producing a plastic-based product. If you think of like, I don't know, Burger King, right? Those little plastic toys, injection molding, obviously. So injection molding is kind of like the way that if you're trying to mass produce something, you need to get a mold made, which is very robust, which is of good quality materials that you can use again and again and again, and you can pour molten plastic into this mold and then have it come out very specific on the other side. So you can make a lot of products for very inexpensive costs, right? But the biggest cost, obviously, with injection molding is getting started, because you have to pay for that mold to be made from a very non-pliable metallic source, right? And there are a lot of different, types of molds, and like depending, maybe you're not even using plastic, other ones out there. There are a lot of like specifications that come in with that. So I'm just gonna not gonna cover too much of injection molding, just to know that it is a big cost. This could be something that's a $30,000 cost for you. It could be a $60,000 cost. On the lower end, it might be 10K, like around there. It's gonna depend on the type of product that you have and the quality of the molds. I think on the lowest, maybe 5K, but like it's not gonna be super durable or super good. So you want something that lasts, because you don't wanna have to invest in this again. So how are you gonna actually finance that? That's really what I want to cover in today's video. Finance being just a fancy finance term. It's really just a really big word for how do you freaking pay for this? How do you pay, let's just say, a $40,000 mold? How are you going to come up with that money? And what are some of the other ways that other creators solve this problem? There are many ways to actually solve this problem, and I've seen a lot of things under the sun. So I've seen people who, for example, will come up with the money themselves, and they'll just spend 1 year or 2 years saving a lot of money, living very lean, and then eventually paying it out of pocket. Or they'll dip into their 401k, they'll dip into their Roth IRA with a little bit of penalty maybe, they'll dip into their savings, or say they have a stock market portfolio and decide to get the injection moldings made, right? Now the first thing whenever I say that usually is, what? No, that's like horrible. That's exactly what finance professionals tell you not to do. You should never spend money on this. You're gonna lose money in business, right? Well, not really if you know what you're doing. I mean, if you know what you're doing in business, making money is like virtually guaranteed, honestly. So to me, for someone who thinks it's very risky, it's because they haven't done any product validation. It's because they don't know that this product is going to sell already. It's because they haven't really validated the market, and it is a risk for them. When you don't know what you're doing, when you don't have your fingers on the pulse of the industry, and you haven't verified that people want to buy this product or that it solves a need, then yes, it's obviously super risky to make a call. It's in the same way that if you were to buy a stock, let's just say that you didn't know anything about the company, that is super risky. If you were to invest even in, just say, like a basket of stocks in a country around the world that you're not very familiar with, that is super risky too. You can't diversify away the risk if you don't know what you're doing, right? You could be ended up investing in tons of subprime mortgages who then all go belly up, right? So it's not really about that. To me, it's if you do know what you're doing, do you understand the market, or do you have a product that solves a problem, and do you have some kind of verifiable qualitative and qualitative validation on that particular marketplace? So that being said, you could dip into your savings, like I said, and do those kinds of things. Another way would be to use credit cards, right? Credit cards are kind of like the bread and butter of like most beginning entrepreneurs just getting started, because they're very easy to access. It's easy to get a bigger credit loan. It's really easy to use them, and you just kind of pay it back over time, and most people know how that works. The biggest downside with credit cards is you got to pay it back over time. And also, if there's a 30-day repayment period, if you aren't able to begin making payments on the debt by then, the debt is just going to compound and compound and compound year after year after year. So for a lot of reasons, credit cards can be very undesirable unless you can actually get a payment done within a reasonable amount of time frame, right? So So it doesn't collect too much on interest. Other ways that I see entrepreneurs getting financing would be a home equity loan, right? So if you already have a real estate property or you have a certain net worth that you've built into the property that you have, right? Then you can actually get a home equity loan against your home based on the equity value that you've built up over time. Now, what are some of the downsides of this? Well, it's actually how a lot of businesses have gotten started. If you've never seen the movie The Founder, right, with the founder of McDonald's, well, not technically the founder, but you know how it goes. You can go and watch that movie, or you can read the story and you know what I'm talking about, right? That was an example of someone who used a home equity loan, used their house in order to purchase their first McDonald's franchise. There are so many examples of people basically using their house as a piggy bank in order to finance their various business opportunities, until they get to a stage where they don't have to do that. Even notable YouTubers out there, people like Grant Cardone, are documented with having done this, like allegedly, I guess we could say, but like documented having done it, right? So there are a lot of different people out there that use this particular technique. That being said, it does create a lot of anxiety, because if you're using and dipping into your home equity, then if you don't pay it back, then obviously that's going to be the intermediary that the bank will then try to reclaim their money if you're not able to pay it back over time. So there is obviously a little bit of issues when it comes to that. Another way would be to find investors. So investors for your business. That could be family, that could be friends, that could be people that you know, high net worth individuals. Investors are also another source of capital. Now, when you're approaching these people, I wouldn't recommend approaching them as though like they're granting you this biggest wish or something like that. It's more like you're giving them the opportunity to be a part of what's going to be a bigger company. You should treat it like that. You should treat them like they are investors. Now, most investors are going to want to know how they're going to get a return on thetheir money. The return on the money could come in many different forms. It could come, for example, when there's a liquidation event, or there's some kind of an event where you go IPO in a larger business. If you sell your business, if you decide that you're going to eventually lease the intellectual property rights to a bigger company to sell this on a royalty basis, there are a lot of ways in which you can go when it comes to investors, but almost every investor is going to want to see that there's a plan for them to eventually get a return on investment on their investment dollars. Another book I have here called Equity Crowdfunding Explained, that really goes into some of the other ways that you can attract investors, particularly when it comes to alternative methods like crowdfunding, right? So there's kind of like this little middle ground of investor capital. However, it's not the most common way, I would say, when it comes to financing this minimum order quantity, injection molding kind of problem that we encounter. And I also have another great video out there on minimum order quantity. If I had to put my fingers on it, I would say that kind of the most common way is a little bit of like a hodgepodge of all of these. And what do I mean by that? I mean, like, some people are putting in a bit of their own money. Some people are then drawing a bit on credit cards. Some people are then maybe even having one investor or two investors. And then they're also doing other things, like they're going to Kickstarter or Indiegogo in order to do a crowdfunding raise. Now, Kickstarter or Indiegogo, this is probably, in my opinion, one of the main reasons that people go to this platform. Aside from getting lots of validation and pre-orders for your product, having a lot of great media attention, having tons of people write about you, going viral via social media, a really cool event with a launch is that like all these people are talking about it and all these people are chatting about it and posting about it, and it's this really neat viral effect, and it's based on the emotions which have been kind of built up over time before you go live with your campaign, and that all goes into the pre-launch, right? And that's another book I have, the Kickstarter Launch Formula. You can check that out. That's like more up there. That one goes more into how to actually conduct that. But Kickstarter and Indiegogo are basically two crowdfunding websites which you can use in order to help you pay, number one, minimum order quantity costs, but also injection molding costs. To go on one of these platforms, all you gotta do is you need a prototype, and you need some good photos and videos, ideally, of that prototype, so you can knock it out of the park with this Kickstarter campaign and show people visibly what they're gonna get when they pre-order your product. So this is another alternative, I would say, and one that's a little bit less risky, and here's why. When you go to one of these platforms, not only are you getting funding when it comes to injection molding, when it comes to the minimum order quantity, but also it's hella important for verifying that there is demand out there for your actual product. So when you verify that there's demand, again, it de-risks a lot of the choices that you're making going forward. If I was to spend years and years on a business, and usually you have to put in, I'd say at least 2 to 3 years before you're doing really well when it comes to profit and when it comes to building the thing up. And then once you get more into the 4 to the 8 year span, like you're doing super well, right? So that's to me, it's gonna take you time. So rather than wasting all of that time, you can get demand right off the bat, and you can figure out whether or not people are going to buy this product using Kickstarter or Indiegogo to validate demand, to get your word out there as a marketing exercise, to get a bunch of social media followers, to compress the time that it takes to launch this product, to get all the funding you need for the manufacturer and for all of the things when it comes to the supply chain, figuring out all those little bits of the equation, and also working with other people who can help you get the word out there about this product. So these are just some of the simple ways that people out there solve this problem of how do you finance injection molding costs. There are a few more, but those are the main ones that I wanted to go into with this video. If you want to explore more of how to do this when it comes to Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or equity crowdfunding, you can book a one-on-one coaching call with me at a link down below. That's an hour-long intensive coaching call to go into your specific product, and we can go into any questions that you have on this. It's really the best way to begin the exploratory process of whether or not this is for you. Hope you enjoyed this video. My name is Sal, and I will see you next time.